Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Corner HVAC. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about when it is time to replace your system. You know, I get so many questions from homeowners. You know, when is it time? When do I need to pull the trigger and actually get a new system put in? Or I talk to techs and they say, you know, how do I explain this to people? How do I tell them when it's time to replace or why they should replace or something like that? And I think we should all be on the same page with that because, you know, technicians are supposed to be there to look out for the best interest of the homeowner. Just the same as, you know, homeowners want to know when it's actually time. You know, if they've got some shady contractor that comes in there at like 6 years old, 6-year-old system and says, yeah, you probably ought to just replace it. You know, we need an igniter. Let's just replace it. Chances are that's probably not legitimate. So we want to make sure everybody's on the same page, homeowners and technicians both, because usually, you know, that 6-year-old system does not need to be replaced. There are occasions out there where they have hard lives, you know, something has happened to this unit and it should be replaced. But it all depends on circumstances, everything else. I always go with national average life expectancy for a modern system is around 15 years. Now, that does not mean by any means that at 15, the thing just falls over and doesn't start again. You know, I know where there's furnaces that are 30 years old and they still run like the day they were taken out of the box. But they were well taken care of, well maintained. Everything has always been done correctly to them to make sure they get that life expectancy out of them. At the same time, I have seen 8-9-year-old systems that need to be thrown away just because they haven't been treated right, they haven't been taken care of, and all that kind of stuff that goes along with having the system. And at that point, they don't get the life expectancy out of it. You know, they say that 15-year mark, with all these statistics and studies and everything else that they do, they say that that's when the age range when you start having some problems with it. You know, maybe you have multiple part failure, or, you know, things start wearing out, whatever it may be, you know, you start having to spend a little bit of money to a little more money for upkeep on it. So, you know, I'm big on making sure these things, I hate the old line, you know, don't let it nickel and dime you to death. But at the same time, you know, that's what I try to look at with our clients is I don't want somebody to just keep having to put money into it, you know, $500 every year just to keep this 15, 20-year-old unit going. It's not worth it. You know, that's money better invested towards a new system. So if you are starting to get up there in the age and you do actually have a problem, you need to think about it, because that's the other side is how many problems have you had with the system? And a lot of people say, oh, this thing has ran for 15 years. I've never had one single problem with it, whatever. You know, you've probably just jinxed yourself for one. You know, something's going to happen and something's going to break. But the other side is that's good. Good for you. You know, there are systems that run a long time and never see any problems whatsoever as long as they've had good maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And then there's some when they hit 15 or 12 years or somewhere around that mark where all of a sudden they start having multiple problems. You know, a motor quits or, you know, something like that happens, which it does happen. All these parts in there, they're made by man. They're doomed to fail eventually. You know, somebody told me that a long time ago, and I am a believer in that. These things are going to quit at some point in time. So we need to make sure that we are prepared for that when the time actually comes. So if you do have parts fail and you do have, you know, look at the history of that system. If you have had multiple parts fail and you have had to put money in it year after year after year, maybe it's time to think about something else. Like, again, that money is better spent or better invested into a new system rather than just keep pouring money into this thing. And then, you know, if you do have a part quit, and maybe it is the first part, but we are starting to get a couple of years on it, that first part that failed could be the beginning of something more, or maybe not. You know, it's luck of the draw. Nobody really knows. Everybody says, well, how much longer do I have on this thing? I don't know the answer to that. Nobody does. It's just going to run as long as it can. And when something quits, it's going to quit. And that's what it is. If you do have a problem with it, pay attention to how much that part costs. If it's a $50 fix, well, who am I kidding? We're in heating and air. There aren't very many $50 fixes out there. Okay, so if it's a $200 fix, $200 repair, those are the only problems you've had with it. It's like 12 years old. Okay, I could see it reasonable to keep the system and not necessarily throw it away. I'm the last person out there as a service technician to tell somebody, you know what, throw this away and get a new one. Because I'm big on, I say, we can fix anything. It's just a matter of what it costs. So, if it's, does get a couple years and you have that repair, and that repair is $500, $750, $1,000, something like that, you may want to think about how much money you put into that thing. I know it's the only failure that you've had. If you're one of those lucky ones that hasn't had many problems with it, that's awesome and that's great and good for you. But if we're 15 years old and we do have $1,000 that this thing needs, that furnace has given you a long life of efficient running. New furnaces are typically more efficient, more quiet. A lot of them have more safeties on them. There's all kinds of different things to look at there. And a lot of the new equipment has 10-year part and labor warranties on them. Some of them have, depending on your brands and all that kind of stuff, some of them have lifetime unit replacement warranties and all these great things out there that, if I do have to spend $1,000 on this old one, I could put that $1,000 towards a new one. And then all of a sudden I've got, at least 5-10-year warranties, and I don't have to worry about anything anymore. If something happens, our contractor's going to take care of it. That's one reason warranties are so important. You want to look out for that kind of thing. So, but at the same time, if it's, you get a couple years on it, and you just have one minor repair, so be it. Fix the thing, move on for another season. But I would definitely start preparing for the day that comes because it will come. That day is coming around the corner at some point in time where it will be the time to replace. Maybe you're not ready for it right now. Maybe you are ready to invest a little bit of money into the old one, keep it going, and wait till next year. Because everybody always says, everybody I talk to, they're like, well, we're hoping to get through one more year. Well, I know where there's specific clients and they're great people, but they say, yeah, one more year. They've been saying that for 10 or 20 years. It's, there comes a point when it's time to actually pull the trigger and get it done. So I'm not here to push new equipment by any means. I'm not a salesperson. I don't sell furnaces and air conditioners. I'm a service tech. I fix them. It's job security if you keep those old systems, and it gives me something to do because I just get to keep fixing. But at the same time, we're supposed to be here to look out for a homeowner. So if you are a technician out there watching these, make sure you know how to explain that to your owners, your homeowners, or your clients or whatever, that, there does come a point where don't invest too much into it. We want to make sure that everybody's happy with all these expenses that they have. I mean, nobody's ever happy with an expense, but if they put $1,000 into a 15, 20-year-old system, I'm not personally going to be very happy with that because, if that happens, well, next year something else could happen and that one could be more expensive, or maybe it's another $1,000, maybe it's $500, whatever. A couple years down the road, all of a sudden I could have paid for a new system. So we have to make sure we explain that to people. And then also as homeowners, I think it's good for them to know when it is time. Usually I tell everybody, you get to that 15-year mark, if you're having problems or not, at least start planning on it. I'm not saying the day that system hits 15 years old, you need to run out and you need to have one put in the next day. I'm not saying that by any means, but at 15 years, it's time to plan for it. The days of these old furnaces that lasted, and I always hear, that's another thing I always hear from everybody is, well, my old furnace, it lasted 35 years and it did just fine and blah, blah, blah. And yes, I'm sure it did. Chances are in 35 years, you had at least 1 or 2 repairs on it, I'm guessing. And the other thing is that was an old, inefficient furnace that did not have any safeties or any of the fancy bells and whistles. And we're probably dealing with like a 70% efficient furnace. We're dealing with high efficiency, sophisticated systems at this point. So, they are a little bit different than what those older ones were. I'm not saying that the newer ones don't last as long because of quality and all that kind of stuff, because there is still good quality out there as long as you go with the right brands, right models, all that stuff. But there's a lot more on them. Look at your vehicles. I always compare everything to cars and trucks. Most all people own a vehicle of some sorts, at least in the area I'm in. So, everybody can relate to those. Your car that you have right now, let's say you go out and you buy a brand new 2021, 2022 car right now. Look at that car, look at all the features, the safety stuff, all these things that they put on it now. A lot of these cars, they can drive themselves. They have automatic braking systems. You get too close to somebody, it turns the red lights on and locks up the brakes and all this kind of stuff. It has all this safety stuff on it and all these different bells and whistles that just come standard anymore. But now then look at your car that you had 30, 40 years ago. Did it have any of that stuff? I mean, did it have any of those safety features whatsoever? You know, there's a big difference. They have improved them to get better fuel economy, to have more safety features to protect you and your family in your vehicle. Furnaces and air conditioners are no different. You know, they have made them more efficient because everybody's worried about efficiency these days. The price of utilities in every area is too high. So, you know, we are trying to make sure we are as efficient as possible, and we also want to make sure you're as safe as possible. You know, they've changed the style of heat exchangers. They have changed a lot of the safeties on there and everything. We are safe now. As long as everybody's doing what they're supposed to, they're safe systems. So, you know, it's a matter of, I don't care if that your old one lasted 35 years, you know, 15 is the national average right now. For life expectancy on a system. So, you know, just be aware of all those things. And when that 15-year mark comes, start preparing for it. Even if you just put a little bit of money back or whatever, whatever, every house is different, you know, how you do your finances, whatever. Just be prepared for that because it is something that's going to be coming. And then also service techs, like I said, I think you need to be able to explain this to homeowners the right way because nobody likes those pushy contractors that say, oh, you just need to buy a new one. No, you may not need to just buy a new one, but we have to be able to explain that correctly when the time does come. So I hope this helps a little bit. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, make sure you hit me up in the comments below. Definitely, please subscribe and hit the bell icon up there. That way you get notifications every time a new video comes out. Follow me on Instagram. I have a lot more daily stuff on there. It's at Andy's Corner HVAC. And then, like I said, subscribe, share with a friend, all that kinds of good stuff. Anything at all, let me know. Thank you and God bless.